Hello everyone, in this podcast I want to cover FK versus IK. Now FK stands for forward kinematics, which this right side of the arm are. These are rotational based systems. And IKs stand for inverse kinematics, where inverse kinematics is actually you're taking a control and translating it, and what it's doing is rotating the joints. Now it's very important to look. If I look at these joints, I got no rotations on here. It says -0, but that's really no rotation. And when I move this in, it's actually rotating the joint to do that. So it's important to understand that if I delete this IK and I grab my two joints and I zero out my rotation, it will go back to its original position. As long as your joints were clean before putting the IK in, you can always get them back. I'm going to undo that so we can talk about this. So when would I use an IK versus an FK? Well, for one, FKs are great for arcs. So when I'm doing perfect arcs and motions, they're fantastic for that. So like swimming motions, or if a character is flying, they're really good for, creating a sense of like that floating sense onto it. IKs are great when I want to lock something out, when I want to put a system down on something and I want to lift up another control to make it move. Now this one I don't have it pinned down yet, but it allows us to lock our controls down so that the rotations aren't happening. They're being pinned on those. I can actually bring up another example for you on that. Let me save this and I'll bring this right back up. Okay, so this is actually the finished version of the character. I can put my hand down like this. I can lift my shoulder and you see how it's kind of locked out right now. So if I move my arm or my back like that, it does this. It stays still. And that's because I'm actually in that mode. But okay, I'm gonna go back to the other scene now. So let's talk about some pitfalls on this. So I already made a huge mistake here, because if I rotate my arm down like this and go from here, I can just zero out these joints at any point and get them right back to the original position. However, our IKs don't do that. The IKs natively have values on them. So if I zero them out, I made a silly mistake when I came into this, is that I saved the scene without putting it back to its original position. So there's actually no way for me to get this right back to its original position without deleting the IK and zeroing out my joint. So this is actually quite an issue, and what you have to do is you have to build a system. You have to put control systems on top of this IK. So the animator is never going to grab an IK directly and go that. And I can illustrate that. If I see this IK I did not move, you see it already has translation values, and I'm sure you're thinking I could just freeze that out. Actually, you can't. If I freeze this out, I'm going to say modify freeze transforms, and you see how it did not zero it out, and it actually just rotated and mangled it even more. So pretty much you have to put a control on this. So that's a big difference on here. Should we always use FK and IK? A lot of times my arms are going to be IK systems, because if a character is getting up from a table, you want to put the character's hands on the table and then push off on it. With an FK system, if I put an arm down and I want to lock it off and then I rotate my body, you see how it just kind of moves up with it. And you'd have to counter animate on this. So most systems are very IK centric. Most of the time the animators that I work with can get arcs and good motion with IKs, and it gives them that type of pinning system on top of it. So are there times where you need to go to the other mode? Yeah, absolutely. There's some animators I know that like using the FK system very, very much. So I normally eventually give them both that option. And that's something we're going to cover much later. That's going to be something later in the week we're going to talk about. But that's pretty much an overview of IK versus FK. We're next going to move on to, how to build IKs and then how to build control systems for those IKs to have the animators not go crazy.